I've helped over 200 catchers win their starting spots now and get ready for varsity and college baseball in the future. But here's the thing, I didn't do it with weekly lessons, I never tossed them a ball, and I didn't even see them in person. I did it with a system. A repeatable and reliable process that can take any catcher and get them ready for varsity and college baseball quickly. Because showing up once a week and getting balls tossed to you from a coach standing next to you, that's not how real skill gets built. In this video, I'll show you why most catchers stay stuck and how a system like this creates faster, more consistent results than any in-person coach could. Let's break it down. These 9 diagrams are going to show you exactly how I'm going to help you build skill to get ready for varsity and college baseball. Let's start with the first one. I call this the 3T skill challenges. The first T is teams. You see, team practice is great. You need a team in order to play baseball, but it's not built for individual skill development. There's too many kids, there's not enough coaches, and most of the time if you're a catcher, your coach doesn't actually know how to help you. They're probably sending you my videos. The second T is time, and really I would classify this as misallocating your resources of your time. You're probably playing too many games, going to too many showcases, and not focusing enough on skill development. And the third T is training. You don't have a structured plan, you're not practicing consistent enough to get the results that you want, you're not using any video or video feedback, and you probably have some limited access, whether that's to your coach, getting on the schedule consistently, or getting into a facility. So how do we solve this? Well, I call it the 3 pillars of transformation. The first pillar is the right plan, and this starts with a clear roadmap that's going to lay out exactly what the path is and what you need to work on. Next, we need progressive skill development. We're not going to throw everything at you at once. We're going to break it down step by step in the right order too. And third, it needs to be clear. If the plan isn't clear, you're not going to follow it. The second pillar is practice. If it's not sustainable, you're not going to get real results. If you're not creating a routine, you're just working on random stuff. You need to create a routine of the core fundamentals that you're going to work on. And third, it needs to be short. You're going to get better results if you do a little, a lot, meaning a little bit every day rather than 60 minutes once a week. And the third pillar is feedback. With feedback, you're looking for frequent feedback, meaning throughout the week, not just once a week. Actionable feedback, meaning that based off that feedback, you know exactly what you need to work on. And visual feedback, because most people are visual learners and you can see what's really happening. Most players are missing one of these, and that's the reason they plateau. And so in the next model, I'm going to give you an assessment so you can actually see which one you're missing. Okay, now this is the self-assessment on those 3 pillars of transformation. Let's break down the key real quick. In the dark purple, you're gonna see the type of player that it is. In the center, when you get all 3 of these, you are a complete college player. In the green, we have the plan, the practice, and the feedback, those 3 pillars of transformation. If you aren't practicing, you don't have a plan, and you don't have any feedback, then you are going to be named the inconsistent. You're unsure what to work on, you aren't practicing, and you aren't getting any feedback. What that means is if you don't change anything, you're not going to see any progress, you're going to be super frustrated, you're going to perform really low, and you're going to be unable to move up. So what you need to do is you need to get a plan, you need to start practicing, you need to get some feedback. And so let's say that you only have the plan, which that's not a lot of people, but hey, maybe you have all the information, but you're not practicing and you don't have any feedback. Well, that means that you're going to be a strategist. You're going to constantly be putting drills and workouts together, but you're not practicing any of them and you're not reviewing or getting a coach to review it. And what's going to happen if you don't change anything is you're going to be constantly frustrated because you understand what to do, but you're not doing it. And when you do it, you aren't getting the right feedback that you need to actually make progress. So what you need to do is practice more and get feedback either from watching videos yourself or from a trusted coach. Okay, now let's say that you have just feedback but no plan or practice. Well, there you'd be called the analyst. You're constantly analyzing your video, looking at what you did, but you're not actually practicing it and you don't have any structured plan for development. So what happens if you don't change is you're stuck in frustration because you know what's wrong, but you're struggling to fix it and your performance is all over the map. So what you need to do is you need to practice and you need to have a structured development plan. It's really simple. And if you're only practicing without the plan, without the feedback, then you are the grinder. Congratulations, you're working hard. There's a lot to be said for that, but you're not seeing much progress and you're not reviewing your work. And so what happens is if you don't change, you're going to develop bad movement patterns that are going to be harder to fix down the road. And you're going to be super inefficient with your practice time because you're not working on the right things. So you're just wasting a bunch of energy. So what you need to do, you need to get a structured development plan so that you work on the right things in the right order. And you need to get feedback from a coach so that you know which things to work on. So let's say that you are practicing and you have a good plan. That puts you into the disciplined performer category. You're working hard, you're following a plan, but you're not sure what to actually work on because you don't have feedback from a coach. And what happens is if you don't get feedback, you'll continue to struggle to identify the correct problems. So you'll keep making the same mistakes and you won't know how to actually coach yourself through video. So what you need to do is you need to introduce regular video feedback sessions, whether that's from a coach or whether that's just you doing that yourself. You want to identify the biggest problems that you're having and then structure that plan around the problems that you're actually seeing show up. Now, let's say that you're practicing and you have video feedback, but you don't have a plan. Here's where you fall. You are the hardworking improver. You're working hard, you're identifying the right things to work on, but you're missing the structured step-by-step plan of how to actually fix it. Now, this could be a lot of you. You might know what you need to work on, but you don't know actually how to fix it. And that's okay, because catching is really tough and it's changed a lot in the past few years. So you might just not have the progressions to actually target the deficiency that you've correctly identified already. And here's what happens if you don't change anything. You have continued wasted effort because you're not actually solving the problem correctly, and you're gonna have slow and stagnant progress. So what you need to do is you need to get the information, you need to get the right plan and progressions of how to actually solve the problems that you've identified. Or maybe you have the right plan and you have the right feedback, but you're missing the actual practice. That puts you into the strategic analyst. You know the drills, you know the progressions, you know what the issues are through the video feedback. You just aren't practicing. And here's what happens if you don't change. You're gonna see inconsistent results because you won't have enough muscle memory, and it's gonna be incredibly frustrating because you're smart. You actually know. You know the right progressions. You know the thing that you need to work on, but guess what? You're not doing it. So you're just gonna struggle. It takes a lot of reps and practice. So what you need to do if you wanna get out of there is you need to get on a consistent practice schedule, specific to skill development for catchers at least 3 times a week. And raise the stakes, get some accountability, do whatever it takes to actually get you to go do the work, because you know what to work on. You just gotta actually do it. And ultimately, where we want you to be is right in the middle, where you have the practice, you have the plan, and you have the feedback, where you are the complete college catcher. You know what to work on. You're consistently working on it, and you're getting feedback to work on the right things specific to you. So where are you weakest and which title most accurately represents you? I want you to comment it down below and be honest about it, okay? Now, as we look at skill development as a whole, there's really 4 main phases. And if you're a parent, you might have seen this before. Maybe if you're a kid, you've seen this before too. But this is called the 4 stages of competence, where you go from unconscious incompetence, meaning that you don't know that you're bad, to conscious competence, to now, oh, I know that I'm bad. And then you go to conscious competence. I know that I'm good. And then you go to unconscious competence. I don't even have to think about it. I'm just good at it, right? That's what we want to get to. And to kind of illustrate this, I think it makes a lot of sense to talk about learning to decide whether to receive or block. When you first start, you don't even know that you're bad at it. Then you get in the games and you're like, oh yeah, I'm pretty bad at it. And then you start to figure it out. And then you know that you're doing it. You have to think about it. And then once you do it enough, you don't even have to think. You just react, right? That's what those stages of competence actually look like when you're learning to receive versus block as a catcher. In the same way, I mirror my levels of skill development. First, we need to master our movements. If you can't do it slow, there's no way you're gonna do it fast when the pressure's on and there's a runner stealing. You have to be able to do the mechanical techniques correctly. And on top of that, it doesn't matter how strong or athletic you are as a catcher, if you don't have the correct technique, you're gonna struggle. So we gotta master the movements. Once we have those mastered, then we need to get game ready. We need to get really good at doing those at full speed, focusing just on the fundamentals, because that is 80 to 90% of all of your plays. Then, once we have your fundamentals down, then we go nail the nuances. Everything that you need to know, all the situational plays, all the leadership stuff, the communication stuff, everything that you need to know that's not the main core things of stances, blocking, receiving, throwing, we need to cover all of that so that when you get into the game that you're ready and prepared. And then finally, you need to learn to lead, because at the highest of levels, everyone has the skill. The thing that is the separator is their leadership, it's their mental game, it's the way that they carry themselves, it's their habits, it's all of that. So we should work on that. That should absolutely be a priority, but really, if you want to go play in college, you got to have the skill. So we need to get you the skill first. And so that's what this system solves. Covers all the bases, so nothing is left to chance. And once you're actually in motion, there's gonna be 5 levels that you're gonna see progress through everything that we do. Think of this as your skill ladder from rookie all the way to elite. First, we learn to move, meaning that we do it really slow, step by step. Then we add a ball, still slow, still step by step. Then we make it harder, a little bit faster, a little bit quicker, a little bit heavier, whatever it is that we're making it harder. Then we work on our decisions, on our reads, because it's not just about learning how to do the movement correctly, it's about deciding when to do that movement. You gotta be able to do it physically, mechanically, but in the game, the pitcher's not gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna throw a slider right in the dirt. Make sure that you block to your knee downside over here. You gotta decide, you gotta read it, and so we need to train your decision making. And then finally at level 5 at the top, once you get into the game, just throw it all out the window and just let it eat, and just compete. Now here's the killer for most catchers, the forgetting curve. Because after your in-person lesson, you've forgotten 70% of it in just 2 days. And if we're being honest, it's probably more than that. And unless you're reviewing, refining, and repeating it daily, you're starting from scratch each week. That's why once a week training in person doesn't work. It does work, it just doesn't work nearly as well as online. You need a system that's gonna train you on how to move and keep that top of mind every single day. Part of the way that we do that is by studying actually how people learn. Because guess what? The 2 ways that people actually learn things are from active recall, which is when you're literally pulling it out of your brain, you're actively recalling it, and through spaced repetition. When you do both of those, you take this forgetting curve and you bump it up to 100% every time, and soon enough, you have it unconsciously competent, meaning that you don't even have to think about it. And while reviewing it is great, if you don't have a well-structured coaching program and plan to walk through, it's not gonna be nearly as effective. So here are my 6 cornerstones to coaching. First, we focus on what happens most. That means that we focus on the fundamentals. And first, we start with our stances because you do that at least 2 times every single pitch. Before you work on all the fancy, fun stuff, you need to get really good at the fundamentals. Second, you gotta build in the right order. That's not just on the big meta skills of what happens most to the things that happen least. It's also within stances. How do you teach it in the way that makes the most sense? Within blocking, how do I build the skills in the right order so that we get the fastest results? I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. Third, we focus on one thing at a time. Now here's the thing, if you don't build in the right order, it's really hard to focus on one thing at a time because you gotta keep going back and fixing things. But if you have it in the right order and you get one thing, and then you move to the next thing, you get that one, and then you move to the next one, you get that one, and they all build on top of each other. It compounds so that you can go really quickly. But most coaches will just throw 13 things at you at once and be like, hey, I don't know why he's not getting it. Like, I don't know, it's worked with other players. Well, yeah. Well, maybe you need a better system that is repeatable and structured that can take any player and teach them the skill and get the same result because the system works. Fourth, you want the Goldilocks principle. I learned this from Tanner Swanson, who's now the catching coach for the Yankees. He said you want to progress at 70% correct. It's called the Goldilocks principle because it's not too easy where you're getting 100% of it correct. It's not too hard where you're getting 30% of it correct. It's right at that right level where we're succeeding and doing it right about 70% of the time. That's the point at which you jump up to the next level. But in order to do that, you have to know what the next thing is to work on. That's why this is so tough. Cornerstone number 5 is do a little, a lot. You're gonna get way more out of 10 minutes a day or 20 to 30 minutes 3 times a week rather than a once a week 60-minute lesson. That's just true. That's true in pretty much everything. And it's especially true in movement training because your body needs time to think about it. When you go to sleep and then you wake up, your body figures it out. But if you only do it once a week, you're not giving your body enough reps to do it. In a movement-based skill like catching, you need to give your body time to actually focus on this stuff, and then you go to bed and you wake up and all of a sudden you're better at it the next day because your brain was practicing it and figuring it out at night. You need to do a little, a lot, and it needs to be structured in the right order with one thing at a time at the right difficulty. And then finally, we need to praise progress and not perfection. We want everyone to be great, but understand that even at the big leagues, they are praising progress. They're praising improvement, not perfection. This is where I see a bunch of parents get stuff wrong, is they'll see their kid, they'll make a ton of jumps and then they'll come down on him. It's like, dude, he just improved so much. Like, But if you don't see the progress because you don't see the levels that we've gone up, then it's hard to recognize it. But you know what the big leaguers look like, and they don't quite look like that yet. But if you don't praise the progress, they're going to lose motivation. All 6 of these principles are built in to my online coaching program, and it's a big reason why it's so effective. Next, we have 6 benefits of video. And why video? Because it literally changes everything. Here's the first benefit. You get to get on the same side as your player. What that means is instead of the parent combating with the player, you now get to get a phone, you get to get over here, film it, and then now the 2 of you are looking at this phone together and you're asking questions. You're saying, hey, what do you see right? What do you think Coach Bougie would say about that? You're physically changing the dynamic where you're on the same side working together on something, and you're changing the questions and the conversation that you're having so that it's more collaborative and not as combative, because sometimes the kid doesn't want to listen to the parent, even if they're saying the exact same words that I am. And that's partly just how life is at that stage. But this is one of the biggest things that I've seen actually change relationships for players and parents. A second gigantic benefit of video is that it distinguishes feel from real. I think a great example of this is in Bat Path. You've probably seen a bunch of videos on this where players feel like they're chopping down, but what their bat is doing is it is really turning deep in the zone. Guess what? That happens in everything, and unless you have video to actually look at it, then all you have is your feels. You need to have video so that you can see what's really happening too. The third big benefit is that most people are visual learners. And surprise, when you teach in the way that they learn best, they learn faster. The fourth big benefit, slow motion allows for greater detail. You can see things when you slow it down that you just can't see with the naked eye. And then when you see those things, it becomes a lot easier to fix it, especially when you have the right plan of what to work on. The fifth benefit is that you can see and document progress over time, because as you get better, guess what? Your movements look better on camera. And if you never captured any of the video before, you don't see how much anything has actually changed. So another benefit of video is that you see the progress. And when you see the progress, do you think the player is hungrier to work? Yes, they are, because they can see how far they've come, which reinforces them working hard and working on the right things, so then they do more, so then they grow more. And sixth, you can get video feedback from a coach from anywhere in the world. Mike Matheny, former catcher and manager for the Cardinals, won a World Series as a player and as a coach. He said there was one common factor of every single major leaguer he's ever met. It was that when they were young, they worked on the fundamentals outside of normal practice time, so they had individual skill development time with a coach who knew what they were doing. And what that used to mean is you needed to have a dad, an uncle, a brother, a sibling, somebody who played at a very high level that could then work with you individually. But because of the internet, you can have access to me. You can have access to other coaches online who are excellent at what they do, and you can be in contact with them very frequently, a few times a week, every day. And they don't need to sit there and throw you the ball. They can teach you how to do it, and then you can actually take control of your development and work on that stuff. I don't think you guys understand how revolutionary this was. This wasn't an option before. You had to literally be in the perfect place. Now, you can be anywhere and get access to better information and better coaching and practice more consistently on your schedule. Now, once you're practicing, you're using video, this is where it all comes together. This chart right here shows the difference between someone who has the right plan, the right practice, and the right feedback, and someone who doesn't. They get a lot more feedback loops, a lot more quickly, so they grow a lot faster. It doesn't take that long to get pretty good when you work on it correctly. Compare that to someone who's never actually gotten the right information, they don't have the right plan, they don't have any feedback, they're not practicing consistently. They could be catching for 20 years, and they won't be very good. The key is putting all of it together and getting feedback and turning those feedbacks into loops so that you can actually grow your skill in a shorter amount of time. And when you double click in on what those loops look like, here's what it is. You video yourself actually doing the thing, then you review, what did I do well? Then you identify, what do I want to do better? Then you improve, how am I going to do it? And then you go repeat it, and you take the action, you video yourself, you review it, you identify, you improve, and then you repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. And the key to winning is doing more of those in a shorter time. And you outlearn, you outgrow all of your competitors. So now you've seen the exact system that I use to level up hundreds of catchers from around the world. Not through a once-a-week private lesson, but through a smarter, structured, proven plan to real skill development behind the plate. And if you want to see how it all comes together with the complete catcher protocol, how we personalize the plan to your game, how you get 3 times a week weekly video feedbacks individualized to you, how you get access to a community of other catchers and weekly group calls where we coach this stuff live, then click right here and I'll give you a full program breakdown. If you're serious about being the go-to catcher for your team or even playing at the next level, then don't guess your way through it. Let me help you build it correctly. I'm Coach Bougie. I'll catch you later.